then.
I give myself extra points for remembering that. I don't know what I do with my points, but whatever. Yeah, trade them up, improvement. Good evening, everybody. Starting a little bit late and we need to end a lot early. Perhaps, but so I want to get the meeting started. So first,
There's a button over there, Steve.
there's a button on that thing.
Yeah, that thing doesn't work.
It did last night. No, for the third one down.
Okay.
You gotta hold it open so they can get in. That's enough. Okay, so we'll start with roll call.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Welcome. So,
You can help with roll call. You want me to just
please,
say the
go ahead.
names?
Yes, go ahead.
Marty,
Present.
Stephen Fruit,
Present.
Sylvia Alexander, Chuck Morgler.
Since,
He was on Zoom earlier. Chuck. Okay, we'll come back. Jessica Sosa here. Jill Towns on Zoom.
Present.
And Sergio Villaverde.
uh,
And Julie Reyes on Zoom. And Steve Matthews, I see you're here too.
Here.
Okay. Sign.
respect.
Mm-hmm.
And did you get Laura? Well,
Laura's name isn't on this list.
she's not nominated. She's
Oh, but you should sign. You haven't signed. Okay, she hasn't signed, so I can't do anything. Mhm.
Meanwhile, let's get going. This is the agenda as I had sent it out. However, I was asked to keep in mind there's a very important event taking place tonight. As someone who rooted for Patrick Ewing, I can feel the pain and really enjoy the moment. But okay, so I split it here. The first first two items anyway, require a vote. Want to get those done. I want to do this, even though I assumed incorrectly everyone knew this. We'll spend a little time on that. And then I want to open, not the floor necessarily, but I want to ensure that for a future meeting, we'll discuss this in greater detail. But just so we start off on that, is the vote is over, whatever took place at the May meeting is irrelevant. I don't care what the vote was, we're not gonna change it. It's not my issue, the issue I want to raise is, was Robert's rules followed appropriately? And were there errors made that for future chairs should be avoided, be made aware of and should be avoided? I believe that to be the case. But I'll spend a minute on that later on and table it for our next meeting, which unfortunately will not be right around the corner, but in the beginning of September. Okay, so the first item is approval of the minutes. All those, hope you've had a chance to read the minutes, review them. Are there any comments?
I move to approve the minutes.
Motion made to approve. All those in favor?
I,
So far, it's only two of us. Sylvia, approve the minutes? Sylvia, approve the minutes?
Excuse me?
You vote to approve the minutes.
I approved it.
Yes.
Three, Sergio?
Yeah.
Four, Jill and abstentions, okay, four in
I'm not
favor.
abstaining. I
Oh,
was
Jessica.
present at the meeting. I approve of the minutes.
Okay, thank you,
Approved.
that's
so unanimous. Second item, I said, amending the EGM. Now, what I have here is what I thought were all of, Steve's suggestions, corrections, but apparently I missed one or two. And I don't want to give the impression I'm avoiding him. But there are two or three questions I have and I wanted the board to consider. The first one is I have the impression you move this rather than remove this. This first line here.
Yes, I do. I mean, there were some other technical things like the table of contents actually left out filling midterm vacancies, which is an amendment that was made 2 years ago, but I'm just saying we should take the opportunity to do that. But yes, I suggest as
What
a-
I did with the table of contents was only to give it a home, not to revise the entire table of
no,
contents.
no, just in that spot because it was missing.
So we had only one item under part 5, nominating committee. I bumped down, my suggestion is bumping down nominating committee, put in chairperson's use of authorized city issued email address, and that would be to change the table of contents. I didn't go beyond that. And then part 5 itself, item number 1, which was nominating committee, item number 1 is now board chairs use of city.
Right.
Okay, and then I had the impression, okay, you move this, but this line is fine with you.
No, I suggest that we take that out because the EGM doesn't go into purposes, it just states what the procedures are in different respects, whether it be the nominating committee or this, it doesn't get into reasons. So while the resolution appropriately talked about reasons and adjectives and adverbs and the like, for the purposes of this, we don't need that, we just can go right into the board chair's use of city issued email address, ABCDE, as you had it. So yeah, that is my suggestion, to remove reasons.
It's not something I'm willing to,
You don't have
with a
to-
hill for. but I was trying to the degree possible to keep the spirit of the resolution that was passed, that was passed. And so if this is inconvenient, we'll take it out. I don't have a problem. Let's come back to that. The word chair bothered Steve.
No, it
And
didn't bother me, I just,
the reason I had chairperson and person is again in deference to the person who offered the resolution. I know that she does not like to be called.
It needs to be
being
consistent.
called Chair.
it needs to be consistent
likes
with the
to be
other
called
14
chairperson.
pages of the EGM, that's the reason, we're not satisfying one chair's preferences, this is
So-
consistent. That's why I stuck with board chair.
Here's Steve's comments that he made to me, which I didn't include in what I sent out. But you can hear from the discussion that if I change chair and I take this out, do we have a vote on this? Is there a majority opinion? Are there any other comments?
Which is what the resolution uses, correct?
Sorry?
The resolution.
What
Yeah,
about-
well, the yes.
It used the term chair.
The resolution will be consistent. If it's chairperson shall use, then they'll all be chairperson. If it's only chair, then all the rest of them say chair, and will stay that way.
You know, my question, because I don't remember it. There's a resolution on
But
this.
the resolution does not propose a text, the way some of our resolutions to amend the bylaws propose the exact text. The resolution just says, for the following reasons, whereas, it is therefore resolved that, and then it states like 4 or 5 things. Marty has distilled them, but they are not text, they are not proposed text for the EGM. So Marty has boiled down a much longer resolution. The EGM does not contain 40 or 50 resolutions.
No, I got you,
Yeah.
but in terms of what we're discussing, the language,
Yeah,
right? What's the appropriate language? If there's a question, one would go back to the resolution and say, what did the resolution say?
I don't agree. I think
Because then you're changing. If the resolution uses a specific, right, we don't need to put everything that's in the resolution in there.
But that's just style. The actual contents of the EGM need to be consistent from provision to provision. So if you capitalize committee in the rest of the EGM, you should be capitalizing it in anything else you add. That's the point of going, and I looked back through the rest of the EGM and made the terminology as consistent as possible. That was the goal. The resolution is of little importance in terms of terminology. The importance of the resolution is it directs what the board and what future chairs should do. It's up to the
Right, I'm only saying,
Agree.
well, no, well, I don't think so. I think it's based on it's like, this is sort of our regulations. right? And to the extent that if the statute says something, you follow the statute. If there's an ambiguity, then there's an ambiguity and you have room. But okay.
Julie's hands up.
If I want to call
I'll
on
move
Julie.
on.
Julie has her hands up.
Mhm.
Julie? Julie, go ahead.
You want to do the right click, mask to unmute or something?
Julie? Welcome, Chuck.
Hey, I'm here.
I just welcomed you, that's all. Welcome.
Thank you.
But Julie, do you hear me?
Maybe ask to unmute. Oh, now Farah's phone is on, so maybe that's her.
Hello?
Okay, now can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry about that. No, I was just listening to the discussion between the chairperson and the chair. I was trying to follow what the bylaws says, because remember initially I was going to put it in the bylaws. I wanted to put it in the bylaws. And because it says that the chairperson is the chief executive officer of the board, and I believe that's how I wrote the resolution in regards to the chairperson. And also it would not bring the confusion that was had before when the bylaws had to be changed, when it just said chair. Did that mean a committee chair or did that mean a board chair? So the word chair, board chairperson is specific.
So is board chair.
But the title is board chair
chair
is used. It's the only chair we're talking about.
So I guess for
So the
consistency.
question for you is, does this verbiage capture all that you wanted? Which is what Sergio is basically questioning. I hope that it is. Are you still there?
Yes, a chairperson.
Is it board chair or just chair? Is that the question, right?
The board chairperson.
So Julie's saying the board chairperson.
Okay.
I have,
So let's start over again. You see my arrow, it says board chair.
yes.
It shouldn't have said that there. I think we also wanted the capitalization taken out. In fact, I do the board all the time with the capital. But the question here is, want to go for consistency, whereas Steve is arguing, wrong word, is presenting that this kind of that chair is consistent throughout the entire document, and chairperson is out of character with respect to this one alone. And I say again, I try to capture what it was that you were trying to transmit. So are you making an argument that you want board chair person rather than chair and rather than just plain chair? Although I point out again, the whole title is board chair. And
I will, I'd like to comment if that, I'm less sanguine on chair or chairperson, but I do believe if we're saying board chair throughout the rest of the letters, perhaps we should have said board chair to A. Even though you're right, it says it refers to the board chair, but similar to the apropos to the discussion we had before, where it was in a section, but we weren't clear.
Let's change the tense. When I made the changes requested by Steve, I held those out because I wanted to discuss it. So it says board chair because I put in board chair. But if consistency is chair and the heading is board chair.
Only because we had a discussion previously where that was what kind of chair, even though the title says that, I get it. But it costs anything to, and it will be consistent with the other ones that say board chair in the very
And it's there because I put it there, didn't change it.
Well, we could take those out or put one in.
Correct.
I would prefer to put one in, is what I'm saying,
Yeah,
would be my opinion.
this is not the most important, just put board before chair and then we're done. In A.
Julie, does it capture it? Julie, can't hear you.
Yes. Didn't they say that the AC worked the other day?
I don't know who said that.
Sarah said that.
I won't repeat it again. So I'll let you guys, it's just the fact that it says that the person is, it referenced the board chairperson in our bylaws as a board chairperson. I wrote the resolution up as a board chairperson. There was a confusion before in the bylaws between chair and chairperson that you guys had to amend the bylaws. I understand that it may say chair, but I mean, that's just my belief. I mean, if it's a board chairperson, I don't see what the big struggle is just to add chairperson.
Okay, so we got it down to 3 choices. Please signify your choice. And this again, you're spending a lot of time on this. We don't have that time. We're gonna have leave chair for all of them. Leave board chair for all of them. Or have board chairperson for all of them. Do I have that down?
I believe so.
All right, all those who think that it ought to be just chair. Please,
1.
fine. Yeah, I have no problem losing. Those who think it should be chair person. 0. Those who think it should be board chairperson consistently. Okay, so I will make those changes. I will submit that to the office. And the official changes will be made. Am I hearing you want to make a comment? No. Steve, I think you want to add?
Motion by
Steve Matthews? I just wonder if you want to add anything.
There
Okay,
ought to be a board style book, so that all resolutions
period.
and documents are consistent and,
That's a good suggestion for the office to have, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, it's easy to do.
Well, there is an office
Word document,
manual,
Just
but,
search and replace,
Period.
okay, so when we want to go from here? Spend time on this, which I've done before. Hope I have it all. Oh, that's,
Is it fair to say that no one else voted?
they what?
I didn't.
Did Sylvia,
Right.
did Chuck, well,
So,
Chuck is not.
no, it'd be,
But Jill, I didn't get
Sylvia
your
and
vote.
Jill.
Jill, what's your preference?
Chairperson.
Which is the second one, not board chairperson, just chairperson. You're muted, I can't hear you.
Board chairperson.
Okay, so that's, thank you. And then Sylvia?
Also, board chairperson, I think that board has to be there.
I agree, okay.
Okay, and the last item that I want to cover, definitely before we break, actually, the one I want to touch on, is in the whole question of how we vote. And I would have thought, I had a professor in physics. I apologize for saying this. He stuttered. And at one point, he gave us an exam and we all failed. And he was very distressed and stood before the class and said, I know I stutter and I'm hard to understand, but I taught this 3 times. You should have gotten them between the 3 times. So I know I've discussed this before, but let's make sure we're all on the same page, at least the committee. And I have seen questions from committee members who needed to, clarification. Do I know you? Should I know you?
No, I'm Cliff, by the way. I'm Cliff.
Hi, Cliff.
Cliff has been observing many of our meetings.
You're still here.
He was that exec even.
Welcome, Cliff. Okay, Article 4 in our bylaws. The procedure followed at all meetings shall be in accordance with the requirements of the charter, these bylaws, and with no contrary provision, Robert's Rules of Order. So in terms of consistency, in terms of precedence, I love that word. City charter is the item we have to adhere to first. So, under Robert's rules, I will everyone anticipated this is our voting pattern, but it's not. Under Robert's rules, which also calls for 2/3 vote, which is not allowed under the city charter, just a majority vote. Abstention votes don't count as a yay or a nay. And there's a script, and I brought my copy of Robert's Rules, but I have not examined what edition it is compared to the one that was cited by Julie, but I assume it's the same. Under Robert's Rules and the script, you ask for all the ayes, and then all the yays, and you ask for all the nays, and then you stop. You do not ask for abstentions. The only time you might ask for abstentions is to verify that the number of yays hanging out there by themselves, the number of yays or nays, whichever one, exceeds the 50% requirement of the quorum. So the abstentions count in the quorum, even though they didn't vote. So if you have X number voting one and Y number voting no, and abstentions, as long as the yeas and the nays add up to, that the number adds up to a quorum or above, then that vote counts, and the yeas are totally irrelevant in the vote.
You don't mean the yay.
You mean nays.
Marty, when you're done, I have a completely different interpretation of this.
Well, that's under Robert's Rules. Under the city charter, the key change is present and entitled to vote. You need a majority of those present and entitled to vote. The people who abstained were entitled to vote. And therefore, the same theory follows. If one side or the other has a greater number of votes, has the majority, those two votes combined have to equal better than a quorum.
Well, better than those who are
A
present.
majority of those present.
Present and eligible to vote.
A majority of those.
Robert's Rules only says be present.
Right.
This says eligible to vote. So those who abstained are eligible to vote.
Yeah.
I only mention this not because it changed the vote of last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever. I only mention this because the votes of the abstentions are could be, in this case, were critical to the outcome. And so there were many who stood up and carried on that we have the more votes. But that's not what the what do you call it? That's not what the city charter says. It says present and entitled to vote, in which case abstentions are the equivalent of a no vote because they didn't help the yes people reach that critical 50 for
The majority of those present and eligible to vote.
Yes.
Okay, now you have a different interpretation.
No, only I didn't realize that you were taking us through like using the Socratic method, what Robert's Rules says and why Robert's Rules is out the window in that respect. I thought you were going to suggest that our board chairs have been taking votes incorrectly for the past, however many decades. So I don't disagree. I didn't know you were teaching. I thought you were telling us what should have been done at the meeting. But there's nothing wrong with board chairs asking for yays, nays, and abstentions, or in whatever order he or she chooses to request it.
According to Robert's Rules, you shouldn't even be asking.
Right, but we don't need to ever consult Robert's Rules where they are supplanted by the city charter or bylaw.
Or law,
And this is what.
or state law, like the open meetings law. stuff like that, yeah.
Right, so this is not, so it's interesting, but it doesn't change. I didn't realize there was any issue at the meeting. I simply missed that there was an issue of people saying just count up the yays and the nays. I just missed it. I didn't understand that people were saying that because I thought they were well enough versed in the procedures to know that that was not the case.
I made that assumption too, except people who've asked me,
I said,
I had thought.
right. And I just wanted,
You made this clear, Marty.
yeah, and I want to say.
It's abundantly clear.
At other
I feel-
times.
I feel like that movie where they're talking about how to set a VCR and the guy's like, hey, he's never gonna get it. The cows get it. He doesn't get it.
No, but Marty has not only explained this at board meetings, but he's been doing the orientation for new board members.
No.
And it's in the primer, and we've like revised that a couple of times, so that has been the teaching, so it's consistent, right, Marty? There's no
I hope so.
change in what you've said.
Yes.
So
Okay.
perhaps Marty, just keep it simple. When you're explaining it in the future, perhaps too much information, not for this committee, but too much information for regular
No,
board
that's why
members.
I got sidetracked.
Right, I'm saying maybe just keep it simple. Just lead with the end and then there.
Well, the only thing missing from this explanation, and Robert's Rule alludes to it, but it's not as big an issue as we make it, and that is in the Robert's Rules, and I have my copy, a person who abstains, they don't call it for cause, but the same premise, if there's a conflict of interest, you should not vote. Now, I'll forget Robert's Rules for the moment. Under the city charter, if you should not vote, we've established, and I had trouble convincing this to the borough president a number of years ago, that you can vote present, ineligible to vote. And the reason for that is, let's take the same two numbers. I think it was 16 to 16. If one of the ones who are in this no and what do you call it? No, an abstention group, thank you. If any one of them said, I can't vote because, then this 16 becomes a 15 and they don't count toward the quorum. A person with ineligible to vote
Right, is not, can't
is
be
not
in the
fit within
majority.
this category. They're not entitled to vote. And therefore that changes the math.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I don't think you would necessarily use the word quorum there. I think you would just describe it as the denominator, the total.
Eligible to vote,
Yeah.
right,
Because quorums have more to do with holding a meeting or not.
correct.
Well, let's go further.
Or
Let's-
having a vote or not, right? So,
I think.
like, you can't
Right.
vote if you don't, you can talk about it.
If you had a.
But it's not a
If your
meeting.
quorum requirement was 30 and you've been meeting for 2 hours and then a vote came up and you only had 30, you just made it. You just
Mhm.
met your quorum. And a vote came up. I'm asking this as a question. A vote came up and one of those 30 members had to.
Is
recuse.
ineligible.
Right. I don't think you lose your quorum. I still think you.
You have quorum for the meeting, but if the majority of the 30 minus 1, right?
Right.
If that got split and there wasn't a majority on the yays, like,
No, it would affect how you calculate the vote.
yes,
You're a
the
measure
right.
base. But you don't say, okay, everybody, go home. Because for this vote, we don't have 30 votes eligible to vote. You don't stop the meeting.
It doesn't affect the meeting quorum, I think.
Right.
Right, which the meeting quorum is what allows a meeting
You're
to.
missing the point. a person who says ineligible to vote reduces the number required for a quorum. Let's follow that up. Let's assume that all those, I don't have numbers in my head,
It doesn't.
it does matter. If the number who abstained, ineligible to vote, I'm not talking about Robert's rules, ineligible to vote, would take down, there are 30 people present, 14 voted in favor, 14, 15, whatever voted no. If I get a number right, if the number who abstained reduces.
Well, Marty, no one in the room is disagreeing with your calculation and your analysis of how the vote would proceed and how you decide whether the measure prevails or not. It's just not appropriate to use the word quorum in the sentence, because the quorum is fixed by what the total membership of the board is on the rolls of the board.
But if the number of people, the point I'm making, if the number of people who voted do not make a majority of the quorum, then the vote failed. It didn't count. There was no vote.
Okay, again, it happens that the quorum might be the same number, but it doesn't affect whether the meeting has a quorum or not. It's those present eligible to vote. That's the number you're dealing with at the vote. That's all the number that you're dealing with.
Presuming you have a quorum.
Correct. But you decide whether you have a quorum at 7 o'clock or 7 when you take the vote.
No, at the time of the vote, if a number of people stand up in mass
I'm listening.
and saying, I'm ineligible to vote,
Right.
Then you can't
and
vote
the
on it.
people who are voting, yes or no, is less than the number needed to establish a quorum,
Yes.
the vote doesn't count.
So then you don't hold that vote, and then you go on to the next.
Well, you don't hold the vote, you don't know until you see who abstained.
Well, until people declare they're present and eligible to vote, right? But are you saying you then move on to the next item on the
Yes,
agenda?
it failed. The item is not, there's not been an official vote on that item.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's good knowledge. Like yeah.
I think that wasn't my reading of the city charter. I think what we thought, like, they just don't vote. Now you need a majority of the remaining people who are present and eligible to vote. Because I think that's what the charter
That
said.
was my assumption.
No, I think that's what the charter reads. You need a majority of those present and eligible to vote.
This
So,
evolves
so,
fast.
so it does, I'm saying it doesn't matter if 20 people say I'm ineligible to vote and you only got 10 left. 6 of those would still carry the motion.
No,
That's why I said this is an issue
No.
I've never confronted.
No, I think, well,
I don't think.
So let's help-
it's kind of all
Sergio
figured
is
out.
correct.
a majority of those, a majority or
Julie said Sergio is correct.
You weren't called on.
This is still good discussion though, because you kill the quorum depending on whether or not what's being voted on, the people that you have eligible voters to vote on it.
Well, I mean, one thing that did occur, and not to rehash the meeting, but one thing that did occur is it started getting late, and some people had left. I'm going to say innocently.
Mm-hmm.
And someone did say that proceeding along these lines, whatever, reconsider, wouldn't be doable anyway because we lost our quorum.
I remember
At
those. I
that
remember
point,
the comment.
yes, but
But it wasn't based on ineligible to vote, it was based on bodies leaving the room.
correct.
I
And
just
it w-
don't know the answer to the first.
And the
question
whole
you raised.
concept of a reconsideration is that it's the same body. So if the body has shifted, and it must take place in sequence, and if the body has shifted, it's not the same body.
Correct.
So I personally have no idea what such a vote would have resulted in, not knowing who left and how many left.
Yeah.
But we finally got to that point.
I will say that I think that my gut feel, which could definitely be wrong, is the same in this instance as Sergio's, which is that if you establish a quorum at a certain hour and that quorum is maintained by virtue of certain people who for particular votes happen to be present but ineligible to vote, I did, up until you raised the issue today, I did believe that that vote could proceed even though, because of the present ineligible to vote person, you now didn't have your 30 quorum, but you still had, you could certainly count up those present eligible to vote and do your calculation.
A new quorum based on,
It's not a quorum.
That quorum.
It's just who's in the room, present
Eligible
and
to vote.
eligible to
It's
vote.
worth a
You
letter.
got your quorum earlier in the meeting and
It's
you
worth a
continued
letter
the
for
meeting.
clarification.
yeah,
I just don't know who to send it to.
Well, I was never suggesting
It's
COIP,
not
by the
COG,
way.
it's not COI.
Why isn't it COG?
The city charter issue, it's not COG.
Okay.
Why don't we do some research and come back to this? I'll do some research on it as
Yeah,
well.
I'm
See-
intrigued.
see, Before we start asking questions,
Okay.
we may not want to answer, we don't like the answer to as well.
It's a fairly rare, it's
Yeah.
really rare.
I'm sure somebody has sued
The
somebody.
issue that Marty poses about how you count up the votes and what the meaning of an abstention is for the vote and a meaning of a president ineligible to vote is not at all an uncommon occurrence.
No, that's clear.
That does happen.
No, that's clear. It's the last point. I'll do some
Yeah.
research on it and get back to the group.
Okay, would you mind if you get any data on that? I
Yeah.
tried to use AI on it and I haven't gotten, not on that particular
Yeah.
issue, but generally,
Yeah, I'll share what I find.
that would be great.
yeah, I just, and maybe do an example because,
I'll try and find a case. I'm
yes,
sure
that
somebody
would be
gets sued. Somebody
great.
gets sued. That's always my favorite.
Yeah,
Somebody gets
okay.
sued for everything in the world.
Because my concern is like the way I see it is, okay, say everyone had whatever, we have an earthquake mid-meeting, right? And all of a sudden, I like half the room
Half
has
the
to
room
leave,
leaves.
right? But then half the room starts making votes, right? Because they're using there was a quorum present during the earlier meeting. I don't think that's right.
No, that's a good point.
Somebody
That's
has
what
to-
shakes my kind.
But somebody has to call for a quorum count. You don't lose a quorum until somebody actually makes a point of calling for a quorum count.
Marty,
And
you
the
do you
quorum-
have
take-
and the
familiarity
quorum
with that?
is a majority of the members of
The entire
board.
body.
In the records.
Yes. Right.
What was the question?
Are you familiar with someone moving to, what did you just say?
Quorum count?
Quorum count.
Like in the middle of a meeting?
It becomes almost irrelevant because we take,
Once you
We
do the
do
vote.
very- we do very few voice votes. We check the people off. We know right there if we have a quorum or not.
No, actually, most of our votes are
No.
not roll calls. Most of our votes are, the chair said,
And in fact.
any
they're done in
how many
reverse.
yeas, any
Yeah,
nays,
yeah.
any abstentions, so you really don't know.
And everything is in the essence of time because these spaces
Well,
are,
they do count them.
Mhm.
They do count them, you're
But
right.
but somebody has to actually, oh, okay.
It's not a roll call, but they do count, they do count.
And it's listed in the minutes as to who voted
You're
for
right,
who.
you're right, I take it back.
Okay, last item, watching the tip off.
It'll probably be delayed because.
Did Trump delay the game? I don't know.
Close off the watch party and 20 blocks around. It's
Yeah.
freaking rude.
They're doing it at either Central Park or in back of the library. Drawing Park.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, I mean, the game is at 8:30, so.
Yes.
All right,
We have
now
9
the
minutes.
last item I just want to raise and do not want to discuss at this time. Unless,
Because of the Trump, because of the Trump is in Manhattan right now in Game 3.
Right.
Yes. Thank you, Cliff.
Okay, what's next on the agenda?
I wanna do an autopsy on the meeting that took place this past May. I don't want to do it now, but I want to set up why I want to do it. The two letters that went out, both ladies are present, and I don't want to call on either of them unless it works out that way. That part of the letters is not, I don't want to delve into, don't want to go into, other than we have something called disciplinary committee, and I have had conversations or communication with both of them, and I would, as a board member, have preferred that the original letter came to the disciplinary committee rather than our president's office. Be that as it may, that's why there is a disciplinary committee. Just in case you don't know, it's in the bylaws. If someone has a complaint against someone else, they bring it before the disciplinary committee, which probably goes to the chair first, which may be one of the reasons didn't, well, whatever. But then a committee needs to be set up. The committee consists of the chair of the board or designee, the chair of LRE or designee, or and an additional board member. That's the committee. It's established when the cause arises, and whatever might have happened it didn't. So that's not part of our discussion. What won't be part of our discussion is the vote outcome. I don't care what they write in every email they send. I am not sour grapes. The vote is over, done. We're not changing the vote. The issue is not the vote. The issue is whether there are violations of Robert's rules taking place before, during, whatever, that could have been avoided if I, as parliamentarian, or we as the law committee, would have made some statement at previous times when the same things were observed. I think that is the case. And I am hoping through our conversation, we either live by Robert's rules or we don't live by Robert's rules. But it bothers me to be selective, which I made with this graph here. In the center is the city charter. The outer ring is Robert's rules. And we haphazardly pick whatever rules we want for the given moment. So the discussion I'd like to have in September, assuming most of us return, all of us return, that we try to do an autopsy, pick by pick, and see what was done, what could have been avoided, and what our role should have been. And I feel strongly that we should have had a role. And so I take that as my responsibility.
Marty?
Okay, I'm assuming that's Julie. Julie, is that you with your hand up?
She was using Farrah's phone now.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to state, just for the record, I believe that, Marty, nothing could have been changed because we conducted the elections, the voting, the same way as we've been doing forever. So that
I think
I
you're
don't
making
think,
my
I don't
point.
believe that.
I think you're making
Yeah,
my
so-
point. There were things
I
that were
just
done
needed to
that
be
should not
clear
have
on
been done.
that. Right, we've been
What?
doing it. I did it the same way from day one that I've seen people do my 20-something years on the board. I just
So you're
wanted to
making
say
my
that.
point.
Thank you.
I thank you
Exactly.
because
But
you're making my
it
point.
sounds, okay, thank you.
Do you have a comment? I saw her hand.
Sure. First of all, I think that in most instances, the chair of LRE is the parliamentarian present at the meeting, does a good job of stepping in. I think that it's not possible at every moment to cover and understand every aspect of the rules. I think that the way that you've described tonight, your understanding of the interaction of the city charter and our bylaws. If you want to do that Venn diagram, you'd probably also put another circle in there for our bylaws that represents our bylaws. And then everything that surrounds it could be Robert's rules. But and I think that what happened on that night, in my view, turned out to be the right decision, even if everybody didn't have every aspect of the motion to reconsider in front of them. And I'm happy to put off the nitty gritty of what coulda, shoulda happened procedurally until September. But I don't think that we've generally had a problem on the board in the 15 years or so that I've been on of picking and choosing Robert's rules to suit the occasion. I think, Robert's rules is a help. It would be great if everybody in the room, knew Robert's rules inside and out, but that's not true of 99% of the boards in the United States at different levels, nonprofit boards, things run on a common sense basis and based on the precedent of how they've handled things, but I don't think we've picked and chosen how we've used Robert's rules. I think people sort of generally learn it as they go, and the parliamentarian often, you know, jumps in where people don't. But I don't think it's been a problem of picking and choosing or inconsistent application, generally speaking. And the last thing I'll say is that there are always the possibility of holding millions of procedural votes each meeting on whether to close debate, reopen debate, table, take a matter out, lay it on the table and all that stuff. And we sometimes use that, but for the most part, we just proceed with our agenda. And I think that's the reason we sometimes get out of our meetings by 9:30. Because if we took advantage of everything Robert's rules had to offer, we would, in my view, undoubtedly get no further than a third through our agenda.
I agree 100%. It's a guideline.
Well, we'll see who's here in September for the postmortem. I think if there are general issues, I don't feel comfortable using any particular meeting because that may tend to single people out. If there are general issues that we feel should be addressed, like I think I agree with Steve a little bit, that's usually not an issue. So, a one-off is, we may leave it alone. If we are talking about specific complaints, then perhaps the disciplinary committee or we need to recommend that one be formed to address issues of specific complaints, because we'd be shirking our duty of knowing of certain things and not addressing it. At least I don't know that it's in the purview of us to address specific complaints for this committee, but that's my opinion. If we're going to address general issues, our chair is well versed enough to be able to bring things in without pointing the accusatory finger at anybody, which it may feel that way to some parties on either side.
I am pointing the accusatory finger. I don't think we've done our job. I don't think I've done my job properly, because a lot of what I saw didn't have to happen. And if we've always done it that way, then don't bring in Robert's rules. But if we can correct it and make sure it doesn't happen again, because it has happened before, then I think that's our role. I'm not pointing, other than myself, I'm not pointing to anybody. And I'm not challenging the vote. It was done. It's finished. It's not the conversation. The relationship is not our conversation. What's pertinent is, I've shared with you some of the things. Yeah, I think the chair ought to say there are 5 minutes for this discussion. And if you go over the 5 minutes, I'm cutting it short. That's appropriate. The chair has the right to cut off debate, or without a vote for closure, you can't cut off debate mid-sentence. So there are a lot of things that we've done, and I hope that we don't do in the future, that only raises tensions rather than move the meeting along. Nothing to do with the vote, the actual vote or the outcome. It's 8:30. I don't know if the president held back the game, but I don't want to be accused of that. So, is
Jill
any
has her hand on, and one other.
Jill?
Yes, I think we spent a lot of time discussing the fact that we're not pointing blame at anybody, or, how frequently or not frequently these things happen. So, I'm sort of in agreement with, I believe, Steve and Sergio, that I don't know that we need to revisit anything. I think we need to address things as they come up. I think we spent much too much time on this tonight, since we're not investigating any complaint. And I think we should move on, quite frankly.
Well, the Knicks agree with you at this point, but
Is that two people who agreed with me too?
Yeah.
That might be a record. You've been on them.
so not to discuss this further.
Thought that should be
I
in
would
the minutes.
ask, however, as homework, and I'm hoping this body either grows or stays as it is, not even knowing public chair at the end of the month. But I put this off, but I'd ask if you have time between now and September 10th, I believe, view the tape and see if there are things in Robert's rules. That's my parameter. Things in Robert's rules that could, or should have been handled differently. And it has happened before, Jill, and
I'm not saying it hasn't happened, Marty. What I'm saying is we can address these things on an ad hoc basis because it doesn't happen all the time.
what I'm saying right now is that we have allowed it to go on an ad hoc basis. We ought to be a little proactive, but have a whole summer to either forget about it or watch the tape or take it up then.
Yeah, I just, no,
I don't see much tape. I was there.
I don't want to give short shrift. I'm less interested in the tape and more interested in spending a little time in September or over the summer thinking about the best way to handle motions to reconsider, number one. And number two, the best way to handle either in advance or on the spot debate. I do think that with respect to motions to reconsider, they've been a rarity, but we might as well know how to handle it.
That's fair. That's a very fair point, because I wasn't sure.
I wasn't sure.
Wait, that's a.
I thought it was only the people that abstained.
No, you're right. It's,
Well, I'm saying, but there's some
yeah,
different.
we have-
thoughts.
you know, but it should be
You can ask for a reconsideration.
but only certain people can.
Well, you have to be on the other
You have to
side.
be on the wrong side of the question.
Yes.
I read it made no sense to me until I read this edition
No, it
of
makes,
of Robert's Rules. The concept is, and I'll say it as it is, and then tell you why I don't understand it, and then I'll tell you what this says. If there's a request for reconsideration, the only ones who can make it are those who are on the prevailing side. Definition here is that since it didn't pass, the group that was against it are on the prevailing side. And only one of them, either the noes or the abstentions, could request it. And I asked, who did I ask? I went online first. I asked, why is that? It strikes me as inane that the people who won would ask for you to vote over, reconsider. And they made
Feels
no
like
sense.
bullying, right? Like,
I read more about it, it made sense.
But
Oh.
the issue as they describe it here is they're afraid of sour grapes, that the losing side would continue and continue and continue. It says once, can only ask for reconsideration once, regardless of which side,
and it has to happen during the meeting,
during the meeting.
not
There are a
not
lot
the
of
next week.
hyper-technical rules about depending on how often the body meets, it could happen at the next meeting, but
Well-
for our purposes, it's usually at the same meeting. And I just like to add the reason, even though it did sound surprising in the first instance, is it is the remorseful winner that the motion for reconsideration. It's when something passes and people who helped it pass think twice and say, I think we made a mistake. I would change my vote. And the reason reconsider makes sense in that instance is that will change the vote. If the only people who are dissatisfied and want to reconsider are those who have lost, essentially, have not prevailed, then that's just like asking for a recount, and that's not permitted. So that's why. It's not a sore loser, it's a remorseful winner that the rule covers. So sometimes bodies realize something happened in haste, and the prevailing people want a chance to correct it. And that's why they are the only ones with standing to make such a motion. I didn't understand it that night, believe me.
No, I don't think a lot of people did,
I
right?
read it
Well, I think this would be a good
September.
brief lesson to give the rest of the
So
board.
definitely keep it for
Understood.
September.
Do you want to say something?
No.
Let you.
No, the only thing, it would, if new information becomes available, that would have changed.
I like the idea,
Doesn't
like,
change the standard.
if there are new why are you
No, no.
recounting if the
Why?
new information isn't present?
Robert's rule says only the prevailing.
Oh, that's right, only to
Right.
prevail.
But it could be new
That's
information.
right, because
But at the same-
we have subsequently learned, someone just sent me a text.
Right.
Yeah, it's unusual at the same meeting.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
An official walks in, gives his report late.
And in fact, the.
Or they have your cat in a
procedure, I
freaking
think
window.
would be for the appropriate committee to bring a resolution before the board at the next meeting to change the outcome of the vote.
Except,
Not in this instance, obviously.
Well, not in this
is-
instance, and I think we should acknowledge that in this instance, there was time pressure
Sure.
that forced certain,
the purpose of that resolution is passed.
Right.
that's right, but you could, but at the committee that brought the resolution could reconsider
In other
the item
instances, yes.
at their next meeting and say, contrary to what we put before you in May, we are now asking you to take.
And if they're smart, they'll
They
change
could
their
have-
resolution.
They could have a motion to rescind and do another vote at the next meeting,
At the next meeting.
but not at the same meeting.
No, that's correct.
And interestingly, while it's someone on the prevailing side who can make the resolution, anybody can second it.
Right, right.
Interesting.
And I just wanted to add that I think another thing that is reasonable to take up in September is the notion of how you handle debate, the duration of debate, methods of handling it. I will say, I think past chairs, including our current outgoing, soon to be outgoing chair, has generally handled it well. But a lot of it is kind of in the heat. You don't know how hot an issue will be in advance. It's very hard to say. I mean, it's just my personal view. It's very, very hard to say, this is a 5-minute issue, this is a 20-minute issue. And very often you're forced by the limitations to say, we're gonna have the same number of speakers on one side as the other, we're gonna limit it to 5, or we're gonna say, if you're under time pressure, everybody only gets to speak once, or everyone can only speak twice, or even in the middle, saying time is fleeting. I'm sorry, you've spoken once, we're just gonna have to cut it off. I'm totally okay with the chair exercising discretion, and I think it's artificial to think that all ground rules can be set in advance. That's just my view.
You're contradictory at the end. I agree 1000%. The chair has an obligation to establish the ground rules for the discussion. Time limits, what's in, what's out, that's discretion. But it can't be after the fact. It can't be during the fact. It can't be, we're done.
I don't think I agree, but in the real world, but I hear where you're coming from.
Laura has her hand up.
Well, the thing is, we don't have something, the speech police. If somebody has the floor, example, I did have the floor, I raised my hand, I was acknowledged, I was handed the mic, and I had 90 seconds to go. It wasn't, please finish up 1 minute. Instead, it was, I was not going to recite a political speech. I had 2 sentences of something that summed up very strongly what I felt. 2 sentences, and then I had 4 sentences that has to do with this board and hate. So I had something that I haven't written in advance, yes, because I didn't want to fumble around, and I know time is of the essence, but I have never seen somebody just say, stop. No, please finish up with 1 minute.
If I may,
So it
please.
was not a political speech, and I did have.
There's an example.
Don't be ironic.
This is
I don't want to cut you off.
Don't be ironic.
I just didn't want it to end that, well, I should have sent my letter to the LRE, and perhaps I should have. I just felt that there was a larger discussion about discussion.
Again, I am not proposing that we discuss the relationship or how that spills over. What I'm discussing is, for example, should the chair have announced time limit? Should the announcer establish parameters? That's part of the autopsy. How do we help future chairs so that Robert's Rules is treated appropriately and not sporadically? And with that note,
Motion to adjourn, so.
Motion made to adjourn. Wish you all good summer. I didn't finish the thought. If you have a chance before September and you still be on the committee, and there still will be a committee. Then if you have a chance, take a look at the video and note down and bring some things you think could have been, under Robert's rules, treated differently and might have made the meeting more effective as a meeting, not as an issue, as a meeting.
Thank you.
With that, motion was made and seconded. All those who want to stay for the rest of the evening signify by not leaving.
It's a pretty big screen, I don't know, bigger than anything.
If they had some AC in here, thank you.
Anyone on Zoom have anything to say?
Good season, Marty.
Chuck,
Go Nick.
And I'll try and get something back on that homework.
Chuck, did you have anything you want to add to the conversation?
After the
Yeah.
I didn't hear a
I would
second,
only make
I
the
second
following
say it.
comment, which is not necessarily one that is going to be well received. There are times that people have to be practical, and there are times that people consider what you need to achieve in terms of balance within the community and quiet. This was not well done.
Before we leave, I want to thank Marty for another amazingly industrious year as
Yes.
chair. Through a lot of medical adversity, this time you really threw it at us.
Right, showing up in person. Oh, and thank you, Marty, under, I guess, post new business, there's the proposal for council members to appoint directly to the board.
Where's that coming?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, we received an email today. That there's a proposal for council members to be able to make direct appointments to the community boards.
Council people do.
Bill before the
Uh,
council?
A bill before the council, yes.
Say that.
Who introduced?
I would.
This sign right
I don't
here.
recall off the top of my head. But yeah, we got it today. Must have
But
been,
council people do me.
no, they make recommendations to the borough president.
Oh,
The
I see.
appointments should be borough president.
Actually make the appointments.
But if there's good relationships, usually they allocate.
A number of members of the board?
Well, the
Appointed
allocation
members,
is
yeah.
different. The question
No.
is whether or not they accept
Can
the
borough presidents
recommendations.
be any more
Right.
emasculated?
The allocation. I thought that the
You can have-
borough president has some allocation.
Like Chuck says, on the way to the masculinity.
Each council person has different.
Now there's no central base for the board.
Thank
Now
you.
you have even less power
How do you
politics
spell,
first,
how do you print your name?
right? Your Dinowitz is person, your Sanchez is person.
Print it?
and-
I'll write it.
Yeah, I think
Could you
it's
just-
it's a larger,
T-O-N.
it's a larger.
CLI.
Anybody want, Cliff, you wanna take some donuts home?
Yeah,
There you go.
T-O-N.
And I haven't turned off the tape yet, but thank you, Sergio, for the refreshments. I hope he's not electioneering, but
I should have brought it to the previous committee that was here, right?
Right, as of 2 minutes ago, there have not been a tip off.
Okay.
They usually, it's now with a literal tip.
and